to you guys today about practicum opportunities for students, upper level students, and how there's an advantage for both the students who are in the practicum situation, acting as TAs, as well as the freshman students that they interact with. This all started back in 2007. We had a rather large class that year, incoming freshman class, taking general chemistry. At the same time that I was teaching general chemistry, I was teaching an upper level class that required a lot of attention between the student and the faculty interaction, a lot of time commitment. And I had so many freshman students in my office that my upper level students were coming to me saying, it's so hard to get to you because of the 20 freshman students sitting outside your office. And one of them said, Tony came up to me and said, well, can I help answer their questions, and the ones that I can't take care of, I'll tell them to stick around and talk to you. I said, sure, why not? I said, just make sure if you don't know the answer, tell the students to stick around. So that helped that semester. Tony, along with a couple other students, upper level students, then began to hang around my office and help the freshmen, so that they were helping me, but they were helping themselves also. So it was an interesting scenario that semester. And so that's where this all kind of initiated. The next semester they said, well, that was kind of fun. Can we do it on a more permanent, structured environment? I said, sure. So I kind of thought up the idea of this practicum class. And so initially it was kind of student-led, and then we turned it into an actual 1 credit hour class. So some of the advantages of offering a practicum for the upper level students who are acting as what I'm going to call as a real TA. So I think of graduate school, and most of us were TAs during graduate school when we were in charge of a lecture recitation, or if you were in the sciences, you may have been in charge of the laboratory class setting. So these upper level students who are acting as TAs, they get a review from freshman chemistry. So when they're applying for professional schools, taking the MCAT for medical school, the GRE for graduate school, they actually do better because they often forget to study for the basic information. And so they get a good review at basic general chemistry level. They also are able to get through their senior defense much better. Seniors who take physical chemistry have a research component, and we make them go through almost like a master's level defense. They spend a semester doing research, and at the end of that semester we have a panel of faculty, they present, and then we ask them questions. And we kind of go after them in a loving environment, supportive environment, but yet we ask them some tough questions that really stretches them. And a lot of times they struggle with the general chemistry. They can handle their specific topic, but they forget the basics. And so I've realized that the students who are TAs get a reinforcement in that basic level chemistry, and they can actually do much better in their senior level defense. It's a real experience in the laboratory and in the lecture setting for grad school. So when we write letters of recommendation, we make sure to say, hey, these guys acted as real TAs, and because of that, they get better placements in graduate school. Allison was one of them. I had students come back and say, man, I got to be a TA for an upper level class rather than freshman chemistry with 40 students in the lab trying to corral all of them. Exposure to a teaching environment. I think it's a great opportunity for students to actually get some opportunity so that they can see what teaching is like, getting in front of people. We do have some chemistry ed and biology ed students. However, I think a lot of them might not think about that initially. So I think it's a great opportunity for them to be exposed to another facet of sciences where you could actually go to teaching. Provides a glimpse into the types of challenges professors face. Many of the TAs come back after a few weeks, a month or so, and they're like, wow, and they comment on a specific event. They're like, we never thought of it from that perspective before. And I always kind of chuckle to myself, and think of anything. If we're not directly involved in something, it's easy to jump to conclusions. It's easy to come up with comments, and until you really get down there and do it, it's hard to really understand all the challenges that are come from a specific career or event. So then the advantages that the freshmen have in our freshman chemistry course, it provides a specific study time. And I think that's so important with students who are struggling with being new to college, being new to college life, and the different aspects of college life. It's a time that they know they can get help, and I tell them to use it as a 2-hour time block. I'm speaking specifically of recitation, this recitation time that the upper level students lead. It offers an alternative environment to get help. Some students I've found are hesitant to come talk to professors for some reason. Beginning of the semester, you talk about your office hours, you plead with them, say I'm available. I sit in there and I'm bored during my office hours until someone comes to talk to me. And despite all that, they still are hesitant. And so I found that students are much more willing to come talk to a fellow student, and that can sometimes break the ice, and that can allow my TA to then say, well, go talk to him. He'll help you. And so I've had many occasions where a new student will come to me after a few weeks into the semester saying, your TA told me to come talk to you about this specific problem I'm having. So, fantastic. So I think it provides encouragement for some of the freshmen to come talk to their professors. Good stewardship of tutoring budget. Luan and Tanya provide tutoring for students across campus, and by providing TAs in our own subjects, we're able to help them and not use that budget, so that can be used in other areas that might not have a TA. It also provides, using a chemistry term, a feedstock. It provides us the next generation of students who are going to become upper level students who can act like TAs then. So let's see, I think I've talked about some of these already. The freshmen who do actually come and take advantage of my TA during the recitation times actually do better, both from a grade standpoint as well as from, I think, an emotional, mental standpoint. I think they feel like they're making progress, even if the grade doesn't show it as much as they want to. I think they feel like they're being involved, and me seeing that they're coming, obviously, I'm able to encourage them. That's great that you're coming to recitation, or I can say, are you coming to recitation, as an additional aspect of the learning environment. Creates a connection between the freshmen and upper level students. I've already commented on that, how I think it creates community, and I think it creates an extra level where the student can get that help if they are hesitant to come to the professor. The early warning is fantastic. I think this goes nicely with the creation of the hub now, that when I have I see my TA at least 3 times a week in lecture, and we usually talk before or after class throughout the week, and they're able to say, hey, this student's been coming to recitation and they're really struggling. So that allows me an opportunity to send them an email or catch them after class and say, hey, I want to just stop by my office sometime, and we'll later this week, tomorrow, whatever, and we'll talk about what you're struggling with. Already talked about the grad school positions, improved scores, and I've had several students at the end of Practicum say, haven't really thought about it, but maybe I do want to go to grad school and come back and teach at the college level. So some of the challenges that we've encountered over the years and things that we've had to overcome, I think initially was a communication problem, that I think students initially thought that recitation was in place of office hours. The way way some of us maybe fail to communicate. But these are not to replace office hours. These are in addition. This is an additional layer of learning environment. Of course we have our office hours. Of course we encourage our students to come to our office hours, but this is just an additional way that students can receive help. It's hard to convince freshmen to come. This is a free service that we offer. The TA is always there, but for some reason only a handful of students take advantage of it every semester. It's really weird. I've gotten a better response when I've approached it from the standpoint of use this as dedicated 2 hours a week of study time. You're going to do your homework anyway, right? You're going to spend time in the material anyway, right? So why not spend it here in this room on Monday evenings so that if you do happen to have a question, there's a TA right there. And so I've gotten a better response by approaching it that way. There's a chance you could lose touch with the student struggles. And so that's why I find it really important to communicate with the TA on a regular basis and say, is anyone coming that you know is still struggling with material even after they come talk with you? And so without that communication, I think you can lose that connection. But as long as you maintain connection with the TA, I think it's a positive thing because this would target students who may be struggling. We always have to remember to think ahead and reserve rooms for recitation. And so from a logistical standpoint, we have to make sure that we have open rooms to hold the recitations in. Faculty load, the faculty member who's in charge of the practicum students that semester, it does require some work for the faculty, and so we negotiate a very, very minor faculty load for that. And we've had to kind of equalize the playing field with TAs. We've had to figure out what are the responsibilities of the TAs, really define that, and so that both the TA and the faculty understand what the role is so that everyone's treated fairly and equitably.
I have a question.
Yes.
Unless you're reserving
Yep.
time. Yeah. I wanted to ask the difference between, of course, I know the undergraduate TA, are they perceived as student workers or are they paid as student workers?
They receive a 1 credit hour. It's a 1 credit hour class.
So they receive credit,
They receive a.
but no pay?
Yes.
Okay.
They are paying for 1 credit hour to work for us.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Looks
It's
good
an
on their-
opportunity.
Like you said, it looks good on their transcript.
Absolutely, right.
Another thing is, when I was TA in graduate school,
Mhm.
for many years, of course, we were exploited by
Right.
by the state
Absolutely.
universities.
Right.
We did everything. We taught, we planned the classes, we did all the grading,
Right,
and they called us TAs.
right.
But do they do any grading at all? Is there any kind of privacy issues with TAs?
They do, and I'm going to talk about that.
Okay.
And so that I think the comment you just made of, we were highly exploited in some cases in grad school.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's where we had to make a conscious effort to equalize the playing field and say, here are the responsibilities that we expect from our TAs here, from practicum students, and here's what we expect from the faculty members that are supervised. So that way, that we don't adopt that mentality of graduate school. The danger of that.
I'm sorry. How many TAs are there? Like 2 a semester or 10?
It varies. We've had as little as 1 or 2 and as many as 10.
My biggest semester was 11.
Okay, 11.
So about every faculty member had one that semester?
Yeah, probably that semester.
We
Sometimes we double.
typically had one like practicum supervisor who was looking over the grading portion, but then they would be assigned to different courses and laboratories to assist various faculty.
So just like so we use the graduate level to make a comparison. So you as a TA was assigned to a faculty member in graduate school, but usually with the graduate school office, it's kind of over all the TAs sort of thing. And so a faculty member in the chemistry division would be over the grading and evaluation of chemistry practicum students. but that handful of chemistry practicum students might be assigned to Allison to help her with physical science, and might be assigned to me to help me with general chemistry 1, and might be assigned to Eddie Brown to help with organic chemistry. So the responsibilities, so we have lined out responsibilities for both faculty and student workers now. I'm sorry, practicum students now, very clearly. So general responsibilities, we have capped their hours. So we've assigned 75-hour, approximately 70-hour per semester for 1 credit hour of work. Usually we maintain attendance records, complete instructional preparation. So they are required to give a lecture under the guidance and supervision of the faculty member. And so if it's a lecture TA, they give usually a partial lecture, usually 20-ish, 30 minutes. And if you're a TA for a laboratory section, you give the pre-lab lecture. You talk about what you're going to be doing in the lab and the safety concerns, and answer questions the students might have before they actually get started with the experiment. At the end of the semester, all the practicum students are expected to submit a reflection paper that I tell them write about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And a lot of the modifications that we have made have come from trends that we've seen in their reflection papers to try and improve the program. So because of the uniqueness of, I think, the science department, we have TAs that fit either a lecture position or a laboratory position. So we've delineated these 2 different roles. So if you're with a professor during lecture, we expect them to attend the lectures. We expect them to take notes. You know, on occasion we have students who miss or might be an academic support student, and so we provide a copy of the TA notes for the academic support students if they wish to use that. We expect them to help proctor the exams and assist with grading under the supervision of the faculty. So that's one of the things we really had to emphasize, that the faculty needs to supervise that. My personal experience, I found that the TAs, I'm looking at Allison because she's been the coordinator for many semesters. The TAs typically grade harder than we do.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, which I didn't think that would be an issue, and until it actually happened, I'm like, no, let's give them a little more credit there. So we do emphasize to both the student and the faculty that has to be under direct supervision. I would say probably the majority of their time is taken up with hosting a recitation. And so usually it's 1 night a week for 2 hours, and it's just like a graduate school recitation where the TA comes in and hopefully they've prepared and they've been in lecture, so they've heard the material that was covered, they have their own notes, and they have completed the homework that the students in the class were expected to complete. So they are able to answer questions of the material as well as help them with their homework. I try and talk all the time with my TAs, but we at least meet periodically to talk about needs. And of course, if they see specific students who are struggling to come, they refer them to the professor. And then towards the end of the semester, they teach at least 1 lecture. For the laboratory side of things, if a practicum student is involved in the laboratory, we like to always have some upper level student in the lab with the professor for safety reasons. If that professor if there happened to be an emergency in the lab and that professor's attention was focused on a very specific area or a very specific student, then the upper level student could kind of keep an eye out over the whole lab, or they might be able to run to the office while we stay in lab and handle the emergency. And so this kind of handles both that emergency situation as well as the practicum situation. So they need to actively assist in what we're doing. They are expected to do the lab and finish the lab just like the students are, so that way they can better help them. They attend the weekly meetings for lab preparation. check to make sure the students are ready for lab as they enter. Sometimes if we're doing it last minute basis, they kind of slip through, so or if we have lucky enough to have a practicum student in there, they help with making sure the students are dressed appropriately and have their goggles so that they will be safe in lab. They help with the handling of the chemicals. As a laboratory TA, they should learn how to handle the chemicals properly, how to dispose of them properly. So we teach them how to do that. And then at the end of the semester, they do the pre-lab lecture, which is usually about no more than 10 minutes. So they usually do 1, maybe 2. Responsibility of the freshman is to just show up and take advantage of this. It's free. And I tell them when they come, if the TA is not able to satisfactorily answer the question, to follow up with me. Shoot me an email. And most of my TAs are really good at, they'll actually beat the student to the punch. I'll get an email from my TA that says, hey, I was helping so-and-so with question number 4, and we just couldn't figure out what the problem was. And then I'll get an email a few months later from the student saying, hey, I was getting help from the TA. So I've had some really good TAs who've been on the ball, who also let me know. So as the faculty member, in order to protect the TA, as the faculty member, we delayed some responsibilities. So the first is a supervisor TA. Just like we have a wide variety of students on campus, I've had a wide variety of TAs. I've had some students who have been absolutely fantastic, and I say go, and they are great all semester long and need very little direction. Others need a little more supervision. So it's important to maintain that regular dialogue with the TA. We train and then supervise the TAs, especially with grading. So developing a grading rubric is very helpful for them to follow. We help them prepare their lectures, and so part of the learning experience is for them to get up in front of the classroom and to give a lecture. And so my thinking on that is to help them do that, since this might be the first time they're standing in front of a group. And so we sit down and talk about preparing the lecture and different ways of doing that, and sort of needs you might need. Is the computer working? Double check that. And the TA, in order to help them think about that, we have the TA evaluate us as the lecture professor, and then we talk about what they've written, and then we flip that around. Whenever the TA presents, I usually sit off to the side and I evaluate the TA. And so we can kind of compare notes on each other in a constructive way that I think helps them think deeper about the approach to the teaching and how the teaching went. And then reading the reflection paper that they have written, which sometimes causes changes.
Under evaluating, is it a pass-fail or a grade?
It is a letter grade, and we've tried to make it less subjective as we've gone. Initially, it was fairly subjective, I would say, and so now that we have the reflection paper, I tell them there's really no wrong answer in the reflection paper, but I do expect it to be neat, well thought out, proper grammar, spell check, that kind of thing. We do have a rubric for the TAs, and I'll show you that here at the end of the show time. That really delineates very specific things that we expect of them, and they get that up front at the beginning of the semester, so they know what we're looking for and know what to expect. Actually, here. So we developed a few documents. One is the application process, and it's not. We want the students to view this as a privilege, and not a kind of free-for-all. And so we do have a GPA cutoff, and we do require a faculty member to kind of sponsor them or recommend them. And so this is just logistical information. That's what this box over here is for. So we actually have a professor's signature that says, yes, I recommend them to TA their first choice of whatever, a lab, general chemistry lab. And that tells the practicum coordinator that there's a faculty member in a department who knows them well enough, or maybe had them in class, that says, hey, they'll be good at what they're asking to do. So we let them give us a few choices, so we can try to fit our schedules to their schedules. On the next page, we have them fill out their upcoming semester, so we don't overlap with their courses. We ask if they've had any experience. We do ask them to submit the change of schedule form so we can go ahead and add them to the class. It's a closed class, so it requires a signature to get into. And so logistically, that has really helped our process. When they submit the application, they submit the change of schedule form also. So all we have to do then is sign it and send it over to the registrar, and they get added to the class. Along with the application, we give them the expectations so that even before they apply, they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. So we do have a grade cutoff. They need to have enough hours in their major so that they can be as helpful as possible. A lot of these responsibilities, what I talked about on the previous slides, but this is available to them before they apply. We developed a whole handbook. Who did most of this? Was it Courtney and?
It started with the documentation that you and I put together over the first few years I was here.
Yeah.
And then our laboratory manager, Courtney DeLay, and two of the administrative
Assistants, kind of
assistants in the
help.
office compiled the information.
Yeah, okay. So this has been really helpful. So let's scroll over the contents here. So not only does TAs have access to all the evaluation forms and expectations, but we've also given them some resources to help them plan an effective review session, since that's what they'll be doing every week, and planning an effective lecture. Jump down here to the end. A lot of these evaluation forms are going to look very similar to our evaluation forms. That's what we modeled them after. Why reinvent the wheel? Let's see if I can- So there. So here are some of the things we look for that you specifically ask for. So, does the student arrive on time? Do they work the appropriate hours that they're required to? So this is the end of the semester form that we use, and then when they evaluate us to discuss, this is very similar to the one that our supervisors use when we're evaluating class, and then a very similar form we turn around to use on them whenever they do the form. So we get the forms very similar, so that way we can sit down afterwards and say, all right, so the TA gave me a 2 here, and I gave the TA a 1 or 2 here, and so we talk about the differences and different approaches. Different approaches can be equally effective or not, but there's more than one way to approach a problem. So really we found that having this document and having these forms laid out ahead of time has really helped clarify the position for both the TA and the faculty. And then as far as the confidentiality, we make them sign an agreement just like student workers do. And so they're under the same kind of umbrella in terms of FERPA. There you go. I was going to say HIPAA. FERPA rules. And that's a discussion that we have at the beginning of the semester when we first meet, that you'll be working with grades and grading papers, and you can't discuss that with anybody. You need to talk about it, come talk to me about it. So I think we modeled this after the student worker form. Something that we have as a department, we have an emergency action plan. Some of this involves laboratory safety. And so we go over this with our TAs also. So this is probably something that most departments won't need to do. But we talk about laboratory safety with our TAs and what they might need to do specifically as a laboratory TA that other student workers, other TAs might not need to because of the chemicals.
Who has to stay in the room in an active shooter situation? You or the team?
Who we are.
Back at 3 o'clock today.
That's right, yeah, I come back at 3 in the morning, so yeah. Where's Matt? Yeah, so it's been, fortunately we haven't had any situations in lab that's really been,
We've used the shower once.
yeah, which is,
To be overly cautious.
yeah, which is fantastic. So we really have been very fortunate and blessed to not have any accidents in lab that require the use of this. And then Practicum coordinator. So this past, I guess, this whole year, I've been Practicum coordinator, and that position kind of moves around from year to year. So these are my responsibilities as the Practicum coordinator. So I'm that entity that is over all the TAs in the chemistry division in terms of collecting the material, the final evaluation, reading the reflection papers, meeting with the TAs at the beginning of the semester, getting them started, making the connections between the student TA and the faculty member that they're going to be working with. Those are the major obligations of Practicum coordinator. We've delineated the hours very specifically so that both faculty and the student know what the expectations are. Shouldn't matter which one you pick, they should all be about 75 hours.
For 1 hour credit.
For a 1 hour credit, yeah. We figured that for a 3 credit hour class, it's about 40 times a semester. We've done the math. For every class hour, you should spend 2 hours outside of class. Add all that up, divide by 3, and you get 120 hours per credit hour. So we've come well down from that expectation.
How much of all this did you have when you first started? I mean,
Very little.
Okay.
Very little. I mean, so the first semester was like, yeah, sure, help, and then I can get to you faster, absolutely. And then the next semester, I think that the next semester there was nothing official. They just kind of volunteered to do it. It was the following academic year then that we actually created some official documentation. And then it
We
was.
had the official course in fall of 2007.
Did we? Well, 2007? It was official, okay. So that date then was when we officially started. That was when
I
you
was
were
right
involved?
after Tony.
Okay. So I guess we actually unofficially did it in 2006. So people were going to do that. So.
And there's a syllabus for this?
There is a syllabus. So in 2007, we went to the curriculum committee and submitted syllabi. We picked 2 numbers, and it can be repeated once for credit. So you can do it 2 times, both receiving a 1 credit hour class. So with 465 and 475.
Can you do it for the same class?
No, the first time you do it for 4.
No, I mean, as far as the class you're TA for.
Yes. Yes. So can a TA with me for chemistry 111 2 times? Yes. Yep. I had students who love it so much that they'll do it 2 times for credit and do it for a 3rd, sometimes even a 4th time for audit or for a 0 credit hour. We've kind of evolved in that way also. It used to be an audit, and now I think it's set up that it can be a 0 credit hour.
How much 1 credit do you get?
As the coordinator, you typically get about half a credit hour.
Half a credit?
0.5.
When did the biology end start?
I don't know. Several years later.
I've been directly involved, so yeah.
Does math have one? And
Math,
science
math,
has-
math has one, yes. You can apply for chemistry TA, biology, health science, and math. So, and the only difference is the call number. So we have, it's evolved now to the point we have enough students that there is a chemistry coordinator for the TAs, there's a biology coordinator for the TAs, there's a math coordinator for the TAs. And depending on how many students you have too. I mean, if there's only 2 TAs that semester, we typically don't get a load for that. But other times when we've had 11, that can be time consuming.
So last semester and this semester, I had a TA for a 4-credit math lecture course.
Alright.
So I had to move those hours around a little bit since, you know, if they attend class every day, it's a lot more than 35
Right,
hours.
exactly.
Do you have any guidance on how I should be moving those hours around? Or do I just have to pick?
For math, let's see, okay. So
Yeah.
math is there at the bottom.
Because we meet 4 days a week.
Yeah, so that 35 is going to increase significantly. I mean, that's really up to you.
Okay.
You know, that's where the academic freedom comes in at, as long as you don't go much over 75 hours total.
Yeah.
And so that's the cap. I mean, a lot of times, those 6 hours of bi-weekly meetings and readings, there we go, those 12 hours, if I have a good TA, especially if they've done it before, it's the
Yeah.
second time around, it's a lot of few minutes before class, few minutes after class, have you noticed any students struggling? Yeah, I'll shoot you an email with the names. Okay, great. So sort of thing. And so a lot of those hours can be saved and redistributed.
That's the highest level class you've ever had a practicum student work for you.
Freshman GQ too.
Okay,
So the
you
spring
don't really
semester.
have 2 or 3
You
hours.
had-
Personally, or
in-
You had a quant course.
oh, I did that one semester.
Mhm.
Yeah. What was
So
that?
I think it was math.
Matt Lawson?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Usually my upper levels classes, the students are graduated and don't have an
Yeah.
opportunity to do it. But yeah,
They stayed a 5th year to complete a math degree.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So 4 years ago, I think.
Something like that.
3, 4 years ago, I had a student. He had enough math credit hours. He said, "Yeah, I may as well stay another year and get the math degree too." And so I can't remember if he approached me or I approached him, but I had a large quantitative analysis class that usually juniors and seniors take come through. I have a full lab of 15 students, and in the laboratory setting, that can be a little hectic. They're all doing new procedures, and so if the students aren't on top of their game, it's hard to get to all of them, to all the questions. It's all a very technique-based laboratory, and so you really do have to observe them and kind of comment on, you're doing that really well, try this instead, maybe a little bit, you know. And so having, so Matt helped me out there. That's the only time though that I've had a TA in an upper level class. And I would rank Matt's laboratory prowess as probably being the top 5% of the students that I've had over the years. So I'm very fortunate that way. Most of the time the TAs are in freshman level classes. I know Eddie Brown has had practicum TAs in his sophomore organic class on occasion, especially when they've been larger classes.
Maybe more of a comment?
Yeah.
So last semester was my first semester. It was really nice having a TA in Calculus 3. Like,
Yes.
he was a 5th year senior.
Okay.
And he knew a lot more about Lee than I did.
Yeah.
It was really nice having him. So
Exactly.
I'm just going to throw that out there. It's nice for first year faculty.
Right. And we try to help out the folks new or
Yeah.
already have so many new things going on that
Yeah.
you know, we do try and give them at least a good student worker, if not a good practicum student.
In Chem Lab, if they're a first year instructor at Lee, we try to handpick their lab TA. and give them one of the more experienced ones we have.
Do a lot of them go on into grad school and become professors?
A lot of them do. We've had several, whether they've gone to graduate school or medical school, a lot of them have come back or they'll send us emails that said, oh man, well, I've drawn on this experience so much. I've gotten a better placement in grad school as a TA or medical school when they have to, when they're doing rounds and to talk in front of their fellow medical students and,
Entrance exams.
yeah, entry exams. Like again, Matt, my upper level, my student who helped me with the upper level class, he took the chemistry specific GRE, and he came back and he said, "Oh my gosh, I got 6 questions right. I know for sure on the chemistry because it all dealt with buffers, and we just got done talking about it. I just got done teaching it in recitation, and I nailed those 6." and so.
They allows you to write very strong letters of recommendation too.
Absolutely. So I always comment on in letters of recommendation to Practicum students, and it allows me to write a whole paragraph on their contribution and their willingness to help others and their time commitment. And so I think it strengthens the letter. So it gives them something to talk about too in their interviews, whether it's medical school or graduate school.
Yeah, I would think that this would be, in terms of that integration piece, that my experience as a lead has
Mhm.
separated from a state school, is that we, as a practicum faculty relationship, there's some
Yes.
real sweet intentionality there between student, faculty that you don't get just being
Right.
faculty and classroom full of student.
Right. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. If a faculty member approaches the practicum sort of the way I envisioned it, I really think that's a key component of the relationship that you form with your TA. You get to know them a lot better. They're working with you. I made it a habit of assist with grading. I made it a habit of the day after we get an exam, I have them come over to my house, we cook dinner, and we sit around the table and grade afterwards. It's a, I'm sure you guys know this, it's amazing the conversations that are had while doing other things. and so that's been neat. They eat dinner with my family, and so they get exposed to it. I thought it was neat for my kids to see bright and well-rounded students going to college, so I think it's a win for everybody.
I also think it helps address the bimodal distribution of our students. So you have the really top students have a role to play to use
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
in helping others.
Which I believe we also talk about
Yeah.
besides one of the things our QEP is focused on, right?
Mhm.
And so I think between the QEP and the hub now, I think it blends very well and meshes very well with those aspects.
I teach a lot of freshman classes, and it's true that freshmen will not typically come. It's not a normal act for them to
Yeah.
come to professors, so I think this would be a good idea for freshman English classes. We have a writing center, but that's more just for, it's not really relational, it's more of almost a emergency parachute, like I'm in trouble, I need to go
Okay.
to this thing. And so I think this would be better because it would give them a step-by-step, take them through the course step-by-step and help them with things that, I mean, I'm just not going to spend 6 hours a week going over grammar,
Right.
but, or MLA style or something.
Right.
But a sophomore or junior could do it. Should be able to go through the handbook and say just,
Right. They might not know off the top of their head,
right.
like you would, but they would know the resources, which might even be, I think it's important for the freshman student to see the upper level student using a resource. saying, well, let's plot the book and look, you know, there we
Novel
you know.
idea.
What's the book? Yeah. or whatever. But making that attempt,
Yeah.
instead of saying, oh man, I don't know, just email the professor,
Mhm.
saying, you know, I don't know, but I know we can probably find it here. So I think that's a good connection.
Do the freshmen look at them as an authority? I mean, I know, do the freshmen look at them as just another student, or like on a high enough level to know what they're talking about? I guess.
Yes. I think it really depends on the TA.
Mhm.
If they present themselves in a way that they really do know what they're talking about and that they're prepared, I found that those TAs are more likely to be and feel more respected. Those who are not as well prepared or who don't prepare themselves, I have seen, and they've kind of come to me saying, yeah, they just don't listen. So I think it depends a lot on the TA themselves and their demeanor, but also I would say most of my freshmen start off seeing them as a upper level student who knows what they're talking about. I think we start off with that. And so it's almost kind of the TA's responsibility to kind of keep a hold of that. And they do, for the vast majority of them, I really feel that they do take seriously the job, if I can use that word, the responsibility. I know the English department is going to pilot this, right?
Yeah.
For current.
We haven't
spring?
talked about it, but we do have a plan to
Okay.
pilot it, meaning use one student, maybe one class.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
I'd be interested in know. Maybe sit down in a semester or something. Yeah. Comments? Questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
That's really-